Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, where travelers are one stop away from world destinations. Connections on Delta Airlines to Atlanta are available daily. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
Bloomington city manager says a crackdown on downtown parking violators would not send an unwelcome message to potential shoppers. It's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Friday, September 27th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with a story about a collaboration between two area nonprofits. WGLT's Melissa Ellen has more.
The Immigration Project and Home Sweet Home Ministries Shelter are planning to use around $700,000 to help recent arrivals and the unhoused in Bloomington Normal. The funds are from a grant the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus recently awarded the Immigration Project. Executive Director Charlotte Alvarez says the Immigration Project will use 51% of the money to support its existing legal and social services programs for new arrivals.
This is really just us recognizing that there's already a need for support for the folks who are already here and then being able to provide that wraparound support.
The rest of the funds will go to Home Sweet Home Ministries Shelter in Bloomington. CEO Matt Burgess says he hopes the money can be spent on staffing for a non-congregate shelter space.
Obviously, we want to try and protect that new revenue to do the new work.
But the non-congregate shelter isn't yet up and running. Burgess says an area housing coalition is still securing a building and a more permanent funding stream.
We can't rely on entirely external funding sources to solve our community's issues. We need to be willing to commit community resources.
If the non-congregate shelter isn't operational by the end of June, Burgess says Home Sweet Home will spend the grant on existing programs. That's because the funds expire. For The Leadoff, I'm Melissa Ellen.
Here's some other stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. Illinois voters will soon be asked whether millionaires should be taxed more to fund property tax relief. A non-binding question on the November 5th ballot, pushed by Democrats, will gauge public support for imposing a new 3% tax on millionaires to do lower property tax bills statewide. More than $1.5 million in federal grant funding is coming to the Central Illinois Regional Airport for safety upgrades. That money will replace an aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle and rehab nearly 6,000 feet of a runway. Bradley University's total enrollment has dipped below 5,000 students for the first time in more than 3 decades. A spokesperson for the Peoria University said first-year enrollment was relatively stable, down 2.5%. And Normal Parks and Rec is looking to recruit volunteers, about 100 of them, for its 29th annual Haunted Trail. That event, with not-so-scary versions and actually scary versions, needs volunteers who are preferably high school age or older. You can find more on these stories at WGLT.org. The Bloomington City Council this week approved a change to the city's policy of towing vehicles after 5 parking violations in the downtown area. City Council member and mayoral candidate Cody Hendricks says he worries about someone coming downtown once, not knowing about the change, and getting towed. In this interview with WGLT's Charlie Schlenker, following a public appearance, City Manager Jeff Jurgens addressed that concern.
We already have in our city code that a vehicle can be towed after 5 tickets. The change that was made on Monday night was to add an additional way that service can be perfected, which is by certified mail. We do not believe that there's going to be an issue with somebody coming down there and parking and just finding their vehicle towed. Now, the exception to that is going to be if somebody's got a lot of tickets, if they're one of these individuals that we're going to be focusing on early on that's got more than $1,000 in parking debt, then yes, they're potentially going to be at risk for being towed, but only after they receive notice. No one is going to just have their vehicle towed. There's a notice provision, the requirement. They're going to have an opportunity to dispute it with the city. So residents and those coming to the city should not be worried that their vehicles, they're just going to be towed off the street.
So where should you draw the line, and how should the line be drawn about scofflaws? You laid out a noticing process, but does it remain at 5? Does it mean the top 40? What?
So right now we're going to focus on those that have the highest number of tickets and the most debt with the city. So we'll focus on that first. It's going to take us a while to address that and to approach those individuals. Then we'll start to ramp up the program a little bit more once we get through that process. What the message we're trying to send is we want you to pay your tickets. If you have a lot of tickets that are outstanding, contact us. We'll work on a program to get those paid and so that we can get your debt cleared.
The council seems to have left it up to staff to come up with this framework. Are there other elements you haven't mentioned yet to that framework?
The staff will be focusing on the initial citation amount and any costs that we've got in terms of collecting that we might have to pay. So, we're going to be looking at trying to provide some discounts and trying to make this reasonable. We're looking at payment plans, different things like that. We want to be as reasonable as we can in this endeavor, and so that's going to be our goal.
Once you flesh out that framework and that process, does it come back to the council for a vote, or do they get to avoid a potentially unpleasant vote?
No, this is all within the staff's discretion at this point. We'll certainly keep the council apprised of it, and we'll make sure that that plan is clear to the parties involved.
Do you have a hope for end date on when the plan will be released?
Not right now. Staff needs to meet and focus in on this and make some final decisions. Hopefully within the next few weeks it'll be ready.
Regardless of the merits or the kind of case of the scofflaw, does such a policy send an unwelcoming message to potential downtown users? Does it create an adverse perception?
It really shouldn't. There are parking restrictions in about every community you go to. So this is, we're not unique or abnormal in having parking restrictions, time limits on how long you can park in places, and parking tickets. This is not something the city invented, So this is something that a lot of communities have and a lot of communities face. But again, we want to be realistic, and we want to work with people so that we're not just towing your car, and we're keeping the debt in check and providing options to people.
That's Bloomington City Manager Jeff Juergens, who spoke with Charlie Schlenker. You can hear the rest of their conversation at WGLT.org. And before we let you go, ISU's homecoming weekend is tomorrow. Be on the lookout for the WGLT crew in the parade that runs through Uptown starting at 10 a.m. Redbird football takes on North Dakota State starting at 2. And that's it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. The show is produced by Rosalie Truback. You can subscribe to The Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.